What's up, y'all? I just made one of the cutest little beat type things that I think I've ever made, and I wanted to go over a couple of pieces that I feel like are innovative as far as like arrangement and some sound design stuff and some other stuff that I think is worth going over in this one. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and play it. It's quite a long clip, but I'm gonna be choosy about what I break down in here because some of it's just like run-of-the-mill stuff. So the vocal here is J. Kim's song "Same Town." I ripped the vocal from there, so he gets credit for that. And with that being said, let me go ahead and play this.
I called it off last night. Like, I don't give a fuck what you wanted, right? Yeah. Somebody else on your mind. I act unbothered, now I'm on this flight, yeah. I've been stuck in the same town. I'm so tired of thinking I won't leave here. And I know I got love here, but life's too short to think about how to be fair. God, maybe I just think too much. Used to work Bojangles for $2 I need a world just to make up. I'm too insecure for me to hate love. Wow, I can lie to myself, trying to forget all the pain that I felt. Now, all the times that I felt these new dollars in my pocket might help. And I'm just trying to get by. I just wanna make love music and maybe get high. Get my family a new crib. Tell my mom to go bounce on the stupid. For the friends that I made here, y'all raised me and taught me how to not care about people think. $20 to get fucked up and we ain't sing. Yeah, all this doing so I can't be upset. Just survive, I ain't having fun. Yeah, LAX from Cable in a month. Yeah, trying to be in Paris and have the lunch. Yeah, 12 years not enough for me. I need a lifetime when I look at me, cause I can't help but to up and leave when I get tired of your company. Yeah, I cut it off last night. Like, I don't give a fuck what you wanted, but somebody else on your mind. I act up while I'm on this flight. Yeah, stuck in the same town. I'm so tired of thinking I won't leave here. And I know I got love here, but life's too short to think about how to be fair.
And so to go ahead and jump into this one, the first thing that I want to go over here is this mixture of like 4 different things that acts as like a downlifter or a fall or whatever. The first one I think I'll start with is downgrade. And what this is here is I've taken this effects sample from the Dariacore sample pack called Gash. Kind of a bad sounding, overly distorted, lasery thing. And I've done a couple things. So the first thing is I put an envelope on it. Well, let me explain this first. So first I have a pitch fall that's C4 pitched up a full octave, right? So this is pitching it up. This is the fine pitch in here. Normally it starts with the velocity. I have mine on the fine pitch, and I just drew this straight line all the way down that's 2 octaves. So it starts at C5, even though that's a C4, it's pitched up a full octave. Rolls down 1 octave to end on C4, then another octave to end on C3, where this, which is a C2 pitched up an octave, meets it. So if I play it, right, it just kind of seamlessly falls down, and you might say, that sounds nothing like what you had. Right, that kind of does. That doesn't. And the reason for that is I put a volume envelope on this by going into here and just drawing a short little envelope, which just makes it kind of turn into a tick instead of that full long sample being played, which I have then taken, sent into a EQ to cut the lows off and a limiter to literally slam it out to just being a fully, basically to make it the same loudness across the entire sound, right? So even down here, you can see there's much less compression and a little bit more limiting being added there because it's just raising the volume of it, maintaining the maintaining the lack of dynamic range across the whole thing. And then this is being sent into a low pass filter right here. So as you can see, it's got a lot less high frequency information towards this part compared to here, and this low pass is affecting the bus here. So the bus meaning what the texture, which is what I'm about to show, they're both being sent into this low pass filter here. Right, so I'll get rid of that, and yeah, that kind of basically explains the gash text, the downgrade is what I called it. So let's move on to this texture here. So what this is another sample from the Dariacore pack, and I'm just kind of trying to give some ideas. This is the full sample. Of how you can take this that's not like, it's music, it's tonal, but it's not inherently like rhythmic. So how do you use something like this in a song? And this is how I used it in this case. So I took this sample here. I'm going to turn my post effects off on this for a second, including the bus effects, which is that low pass again that these two are both being sent into. So I kind of took the first hit here, and as you can see, it's time stretched, right, to fit the length of it. And the way that I'll set something like that up, first of all, is go in here. Where actually no, go in here, turn this. That's your stretching thing. That'll let you stretch instead of pull it open. But the reason I stretched it is because here's where the next piece starts, and I just wanted to cut that off. So so I just time stretched the piece to fit a full bar. So I kind of have a new piece or a new little hit with some reverberating stuff playing on each different section there. So kind of just granular weirdness. And then I've done some stuff to it. So to make it fit with the gash, I'm going to turn my post effects on. This is not super important. It's just a high pass to cut the really low frequency information out, which lets the vocal. All right, if I play it with that on.
Somebody else on your mind.
If you look at where the vocal sits,
Somebody else on your mind.
there's a little bit down here that if I turn this high pass off,
Somebody else on your mind.
gets quite overpowered.
Somebody else on your mind.
So you hear how that bottom kind of peaks out there and gets a nice little bit. I could have probably even have cut more off it. Then it's being sent through a multi-band compressor to kind of enrich the low end, right? Bypassed, it's a lot brighter. Then that's kind of bringing the low bands up and the high bands stay in the same place but get a little compressed. And then I sent it through a multipass, and this is probably the important part that I would say is what's worth showing here, which is, as you can see, I have an LFO here set to 1/8, 2/16, and that's just like popping the high end at the same exact rate as my gash. Right, so without it, it kind of makes those clash and like not fit together. The multipass just helps them fit together. I also have a gain here that's going from 23% up to about 66%. And then I have a compressor that looks like it does nothing. That happens a lot of times when I'm producing. You know, you get pieces in there that are doing something that then stop doing something. So that's fine. Then we have the resonator is not really important. It just kind of enriches the frequencies that this track is in key with. I've also, just to note, I've pitch shifted these to fit. I'm pretty sure the track's in, what is this track in? If I go up here and look at my other stuff in here, oh, it's in D. So I've just changed the pitch from D sharp into D by pitching it down one semitone to kind of keep it moving quickly. I think I'm gonna say, unsolo this. I also have a transgate again that I just felt like was too much altogether. I still wanted it to feel like a texture. So that's affecting all three bands. I think that's all I really need to show here. The only other thing I would say is I added an impact that's tuned to D. And I've added a little clap sound. And those two come together to just help this feel like it's coming into a big space where these fit. These all like mix together. One of the things you can do too is like if you were to take, let's say, these elements here, so my bottom two elements, and you wanted them to sound like they were doing that same type of effect, but without the clap, you could have a, let's do, instead of one of those, let's do like a kilohertz reverb. You could have a reverb that fades out. So you could take your mix knob here and like start it at like 50%, a lot of decay. Right, and fade that down. So you're going from like a big space into a smaller space, or the same thing but with the decay and the mix. Right, I can't turn both of them at the same time, but you could do a mix of both of those. And then the last thing I'll note here is the Pro Q3. This is doing a thing that like early in production I would have said don't do that, it sounds better the other way, because like soloed out without the Pro Q3 it sounds better. right? Undoubtedly that sounds cooler than this. So why do I have it? The reason that I have it here is because I'm bringing in some smaller elements that start in the low end and build up. And if I leave my Pro Q3 off, completely covered, just a little bit of them peeking out. So basically what I'm doing is I'm having this low pass that fades down kind of meet these two low passes that fade up. And again, lastly, before I kind of move on, let me just play this. Just compare how this feels without the low pass to with the low pass. So this is without.
I called it off last night. God don't give a fuck what you wanted, right? Yeah. Somebody else on your mind. I act unbothered, now I'm on this fight, yeah. I've been stuck in the same town. I'm so tired of thinking I won't leave here. And I know I got love here, but life's too short to think about how to be fair. God, maybe I just think too much. Used to.
So it is falling because the gash that clicks, but listen with the low pass.
I called it off last night. God don't give a fuck what you wanted, right? Yeah. Somebody else on your mind. I act unbothered, now I'm on this fight, yeah. I've been stuck in the same town. I'm so tired of thinking I won't leave here. And I know I got love here, but life's too short to think about how to be fair. God, maybe I just think too much. Used to work Bojangles.
It's subtle, but like it's stuff like this that will really make I think a track feel cohesive. So like that is all of my elements except for the vocal being low pass down so that there's space for new stuff to come in. And I could even go harder with this if I wanted to really make it feel like this section ends.
Too short to think about how to be fair. God, maybe
and the next one comes in, right? Whereas these are kind of mixing to where they blend into each other. You could kind of go with the opposite thing.
God.
Like if I brought this up and this up.
God, maybe I just think too much. Used to work,
right?
And I know I got love here.
That's a little bit more pronounced than I want this particular thing to be. So from there, let me go ahead and jump into these next pieces that come in, the stab and the fluty pluck. So I just want to be quick with these because they're not super revolutionary. I'll put this pluck, the Planka triplet stab, it's like an edit of one of my presets here. I'll put that on the Patreon so y'all can get that for free or for $3, I guess. And the fluty pluck is a without the low pass, so you can kind of hear the full energy version. Is a sample from the Dariacore pack. Let me just show the fluty real quick. So it's this sample right here, the sweet flute. I've taken it, put it into a sampler channel, turned it to stretch mode. So without it being, well, first, let me start with the most kind of vital thing. So first of all, we're running on this pattern right here, which is a dotted quarter note. So this is a quarter note plus an eighth note added together, and it bends between those notes there. If I turn this off, I didn't want it to do that, and I'm letting this piece run. And there's a reason for this dotted pattern making sense, and that's because my two plucks do it, and my serum patch here has a dotted pattern in it as well, so it kind of makes those fit together. So then we have the fluty pluck is polyphony's turned off, it's monoed, and there's a little bit of slide here, but not the max amount, or I've shortened it from the default amount a little bit. So then we have the volume. As you can see, it's kind of messing it up when I turn the envelope off, but the envelope helps it kind of determine that these notes are different. It also just gives it a little more decay if you look at that versus, well, I mean, it's cutting the second one off because it thinks that these notes are running into each other, but just know that this helps it be a little pluckier. And then the 3OSC, I've done pretty much the exact same set of steps, so monoed it, and it's just a patch that's like a saw wave with a little bit of noise, right? That's a lot of noise. It's got a little bit of noise. It's got amplitude modulation. This is supposed to be set to a saw. That's why I changed it back, because I've been doing this tutorial for a minute and messed that part up. But when you turn this up, it only increases the amplitude modulation. So like this is not actually adding a saw, right? Or I'm sorry, not actually adding a sine wave here, unless you turn this off. So amplitude modulation is just a way to get stuff sounding a little crustier a lot of the times. And the one thing you might notice is it kind of pumps, and the reason for that is I've sent this pluck into a fruity send here. So this is without the send. Just kind of a little bending lead. Then once I add the send at a dotted half note, so 1 note, 2 notes, it's doubling the length of this. So for each 2 bars, there's 3 of these pumps versus like the 5 that happen normally. And it just helps to add like another bit of rhythm to this. So playing it without that. Kind of full. Kind of fun, I would say, is what that does. It's a funizer. It increases the fun of it. So yeah, the reason that I've gone through explaining that is to show here that these plucks... Let me move the low pass back so you can hear the full thing. I'll kind of shortly explain how this works. Basically, it is a pluck with this dotted pattern helping to accentuate it. So if I turn this off and activate and then well, I guess I have to how do I activate all the destinations? What? I need to unbypass these. I can't really break it down too much because it ends up messing the patch up and I can't really easily reset it. So just know I have plucks going on here. So the envelope is the first pluck. I turn the filter off and this off real quick. 2 layers. One is like a kind of harsher square layer on top. Then another one is like a less sharp version of that. And the amplitude envelope is making them a pluck. And why is this doing the pattern that I hear on it? There's something up. Oh, it's because this is, I don't have this bypass. So if I go in and bypass this now. Yeah, it's just too much to show. So then the decay basically is getting lengthened by this envelope here. And as you can see, I'm playing quarter note or eighth notes here. So eighth with a little stutter at the end of each, right, to kind of help it flow and just make it more fun. So this is increasing. Let me turn my stuff back on one at a time. So then this is my first pluck, is the sustain, right? That gives it a pluck. Then I add a filter pluck, so I'll turn my filter on. And this is just basically another pluck envelope set to eighths. Envelope mode's on. I'm going to give this patch away, so don't worry about that too much. Then we have the dotted pluck that I bring in here, and that is a volume automation. This adds a little bit of volume to these. Let me play it from the start, and you can hear that it kind of just adds 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. So as you can see, we have the same number of eighth note plucks here, but it's just kind of accenting each dotted one to do the same thing as what the pluck, the fluty pluck, is doing. So let me bypass all my stuff here. And then lastly, this also is as I turn this modulation, this macro up, it is increasing 3 things. So the amount that both of these do anything, the filter cutoff from LFO1, so this is increased by this turning up, right? As you can see, that's increasing as my modulation goes. You kind of look at 2 things at the same time. This is turning this LFO, this one right here, which does this up, so it goes from 0 to actually doing something, right? And then it is also doing that to my filter frequency post effect one. So this one here. And that one runs this one. So both of these are being affected. And then and it doesn't sound like it sounds in the track, and that's because I have a low pass again fading in on this. might even start that a little higher.
God, maybe I just think too much.
Let me bring it back down.
God,
Yeah.
God, maybe I just think too much.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm going to save the project. I like that better. Yeah, so that's basically what that's doing. Those fade in. I don't have any sweeps or anything raising up to here.
Wow, I can lie to myself, trying to forget all the pain that I felt. Now, all the times that I felt, these new dollars in my pocket might help.
And then lastly, before I move to the next part, I just want to note that the flutie changes pattern once it gets to 2 bars. So it's kind of like a little... just like a cool little doot 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 on the bottom, and that is going to help a lot later in this project, so we'll just kind of play it from here.
Now, all the times that I felt, these new dollars in my pocket might help.
It's almost like a motif that happens, that little doot doot doot. So moving to the next part here, I want to talk a lot about tension and like building of elements. So rolling into the first part, I'm going to do the sound design last for this.
Now, all the times that I felt, these new dollars in my pocket might help. And I'm just trying to get by. I just want to make love music and maybe get high.
So we have like a fake. So if you look at the structure here, it's kind of odd looking. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars, 4 bars of straight breakdown, then 4 more bars of this piece breaking down and this piece building. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 strange bars. So what it is here is 4 bars of fake drop with a less distorted Reese. Then a bunch of stuff comes in, so the drums come in here and a little the green thing, which is like a airy reverb layer. So we have fake drop, build it a little bit, build it again, build it again. Then another like break piece here where I take a piece away. And then we have the fully built section happening again here. So instead of having like fake drop, 7 bars, you know, finishing the 8 bars out, and then another fake drop in this section, it's fake drop, 6 bars, and then a bookend of another like little breath section here before the next one starts. So you can do interesting stuff with your arrangement to get that type of you know, building and ever changingness to a beat that, or whatever, you know, project you're working on. So let's kind of talk about the 4 building layers to this drop. So we have first,
And I'm just trying to get by. I just want to make love music and maybe get high.
just the Reese with the lowest amount of energy. Then once the drums hit here,
Get my family a new crib. Tell my mom to go bounce on the stupid.
we have 2 things happen. So first, the Reese goes from low energy here to like a heavily distorted version, playing a single note. So again, here we have 1 single long note, 1 single long note, and then the pattern goes from being long and stagnant to like multiple hits that kind of like bounce into each other. And we have this piano hit come in that I'll explain later. And I'll talk about the Reese processing also later, so you're not like kind of getting bogged down in this section. We don't get trapped here.
Get my family a new crib. Tell my mom to go bounce on the stupid.
Pretty sparse drums in almost like a slowed Moomba clap pattern. I don't even know what you'd describe that as, just like a beat. Then we have the next section gets set off by this Aldrich sample. I'll turn it up. That comes in there and like kind of sets the new piece off. Then we have hats come in. And these are from the Dariacore pack. They're just one of the loops that I just, you know, kind of processed a little bit and sent into my drum bus. So those kind of help accent the flute that also comes in. Except I have to have these automation lanes turned on. And then another thing happens with the Reese. So the Reese has gone from 1 single long bar to having these up bends and the stabs. And I'm going to explain how I got the reverb on the bending part later. So now we're kind of at the fully built version. So we went from low intensity Reese to low intensity, low rate, low like hits, you know, so like do, you're not doing the like dun 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 dun, right? To having a stronger distortion, other things come in with the drums, and then this is the fully built out with like vocals, drums, plenty of drums, hats come in, flute comes in, bends come in, and then we have, like, after the fully thing gets built, it's almost like a roller coaster. We go up the clickety hill, then we drop off. And, like, everything cuts out except for this kick zap combo that goes under some drums here, or over some drums. And the reason the drums are set like that is because on the fluty bend, normally the little repetition here would be like this. Right? That would be how it goes. But instead, I soloed out just the bottom two first hits. So it like gives it a nice little breath. That would be compared to, let's say, if I was to do it like this. Right? No, this. So it's still cool with that, but it just gives it a little bit more like motif maybe. So then the hats here get more stuttery. And we're finally at max power, because then finally I bring in the synth layer. So this is just the pluck layer. Then this is with the added, like, once the pump on that little synth layer turns on, you get the 3 OSC. Right, so this is the final form of this. And again, the Reese is going like heavy, not heavy, it's like full distortion, but also a lot of hits there. And then again, I have like the type of kick roll, the type of 808 roll that people do sometimes that fades in, and I'll turn that up so you can kind of hear it a little more. So hopefully you're getting the idea off of that. So then final form we do for 1 bar of like full energy here. And as you can see, that's the 4th bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4th bar is full energy. So then what do? Get rid of some of that energy by cutting the flute out and slowing the hats down. So let me just kind of play the hats here so you get an idea of what the hats do. This is starting at bar 2. Just we'll go with just the vocals. For the friends that I made here, y'all raised me and taught me how to not care. People think 20 bucks. I'll actually turn the vocals off. So this is to kind of solo how the hats progress. They start out kind of following the flute melody. Slow way down once the flute cuts out, right? Right, so faster. Then finally. And why do I get away with that? Like, how can I get away with removing elements and having it still, or not why do I get away with it, but like, what do I think, what is my theory on why that sounds cool, instead of just kind of losing all the energy? And that's because my pattern here is 1 for a bar, then 2 different ones in a bar section. And then if I was a deeply mathematical producer, which I probably am and used to be even more, in this little break here, I should have this. But what does that do? Covers up all that cool stuff. So I cut it out there. Then when it comes back in here, fluty gets, cut out. And those kind of replace the space that it was originally taking up. So we have a lot of movement of energy on this one. Flute comes back in on this type pattern. And as you can see, the hats speed right back up, go from super slow to fast again. So now, why does this one have a little bit different of tone? One is, obviously it doesn't have the laser, but also, like, if you look at where the Reese comes in, it comes in on the 3rd hit in this piece, and then I do a different section here. It comes in after it. So instead of sliding these back and having it rolling into it, I have it start right there. So kind of rolling into the finish here, we have it speed up for another bar. And this is the weirdest section of the Reese here. I'm just kind of echoing what's happened earlier in the beat. So lastly, the only thing that switches on this second half is a new piece of the flute comes in that's never been played before, and that is, let me play it with this on. So not only is this obviously new, the kalimba, which like gives it another bunch of space to be in, but this is normally the finish. Is this the finish? Yeah. How long is this though? That's 2 beats. What did I do different on this piece? I did something different. Oh yeah, it's just completely different notes here. So normally it would go like A to B, right? This is the normal pattern, so it goes from to repeating another 2 bars and then to. But in this one, I've just replaced that last bar there with, instead of going back into this, it switches to this. And I don't know if that's beneficial, but my ears are used to it now. You can probably tell off the rip if that's jarring or not. So that's kind of how that works. Let me spend some couple seconds on these drums just to say, we got your standard hip hop kick. That's one that didn't make the cut for the Dariacore pack. Very punchy though. I wish I would have added that one in. It's actually kind of blown out, but I do just a V clip on it. So, and then some EQing, which makes it into that. That'll go into another sample pack at some point. And these are all samples from the Dariacore pack right here. So we have just a ton of different claps that all came from the Dariacore pack again. So once I go in here, you can kind of see that's not from the Dariacore pack. How did that get in there? And it's because it is. I just wanted to do like clap reverb, but have it be kind of machine-y sounding. So what I did was took this clap and just time stretched it, right? And that's a good way to get like a really weird layer into stuff sometimes, is just do overly stretched layers. So again, this is like a pretty freeform pattern. So let me play it with the kicks. Basically what I did here was just go with the beat that I have and like program maybe 2 bars worth or you know, put the samples in, and then just whatever felt right for that section is what I did. Like if I copy this over, you'll notice unless I'm talking out of my ass here, I'm pretty sure that it's pretty vastly different, right? So as you can see here, not the exact same overlap. This section looks like it's pretty similar except for these couple pieces here. And then this one's pretty, you know, wildly different. So, you know, just did whatever felt right for that particular section, especially considering the hats that I added later. Yeah, so I don't want to spend too much time on that. You get the idea. Basically, I just ran all those drums through an EQ to cut the lows and cut a little bit of punchiness off of the mid level. Right. Just this little like really thumpy band, or whatever you call it. Not thumpy, but like the percussive piece of the band. And then send them through a compressor to kill the transients. Right, that kind of makes it punchier. And then lastly, send it through Tectonic, which is like an OTT. It's like OTT that costs money. It's like an OTT if it was indie. That's what this feels like. And it's a lot more subtle, but it's also a little bit finicky. Maybe I just am not using it correctly, but that's how I got the sound out of that. Moving on to the sound design. How did I get the Reese to do this? So you may notice there, we only have reverb on the high bend parts. How I thought I was going to do this was with a multipass. I tried to get this to work for a long time, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. The original concept was this. That's my high band soloed out. I wanted only for there to be reverb on that section. So I thought, where's my reverb at? I thought, okay, I'll put a reverb on here, have it at 100%, and then like figure out a way that, like when this piece happens, I guess the original concept was to do this. Take this, put a audio follower in, add some gain, route it to do the band 3, which is this band here. And then just have it kind of fade this down anytime that that high piece isn't playing. So the only problem is it kind of got washed out and weird. That is a passable version of the sound, but if you listen to this compared to that, that's just way more clean. And so the way that I did this was I took the routing there, and anytime that there is one of these high notes, I just added ukulele to Reese verb, or basically the Reese into here. Every time one of the hi-hats happens, this automation turns on the input here. So look at this. And then just send it through a convolver with all wetness, no dry. A little bit of pre-effects just to kind of punch it up, but that's not even worth talking about. You get the concept there. Now lastly, before I move into the last piece, or second to last piece, how did I make this? The way I made this was I took this sample right here from the Dariacore pack and sent it into some stuff. Again, probably some reverb and stuff. I'm not going to go over too much of how I made this because it's way too much effects. So I did a trick that I saw this dude on TikTok do that was like, take a sound. So I took this piano sound, sent it through distortion. We'll talk about that first. So that's with the distortion. That's without. Then sent it through a delay with some ducking and pretty quick feedback. Then sent that through another EQ, or the first EQ. So I just want the mid band there. Then I have the Valhalla room set to 20%. And then lastly, send it through a slow compression just to keep that hit from being too loud. And why do I have that first compressor on there? Well, because in this section, I add more elements to it. And I'll just show that like the main top pieces are all piano pieces. Right, so just kind of doing that. Then in the second half, I bring in another sample to kind of layer with it. And this one is, oops, a glitch riff piece. And so I can repeat my top parts and send those with a compressor on top of it to slam them together into that same set. Right, so then I have my pieces there that combine, and they get altered in the second half, but that's just basically how I made those, like, lo-fi.
What's up? 12 years not enough for me. I need a lifetime when I look at me, cause I can't help but to up and leave when I get tired of your company, yeah.
Then we have the kalimba that comes in, and I just wrote a new little melody for that there. It's not really new, it's just like a repetition of, I'm pretty sure that's, oh no, it's that. With like a resolution on the end. I'll probably add some processing to that.
I can't help but to up and leave when I get tired of your company, yeah.
Yeah, is that not cool right there though? Cutting it out back to the vocals, breath section before the next section. And then this piece is really easy to explain. It's just a couple of things. I'll play it in context without me interrupting it.
I can't help but to up and leave when I get tired of your company, yeah. I got it off last night. I don't give a fuck what you want it, right? Somebody else on your mind. I act up like I'm on this flight, yeah. Been stuck in the same town.
Okay, so what is this here? It's just like a redux of the beat. I have kicks again.
Off last night, like I don't give a fuck what you wanted, right?
Yeah, so that repeats over and over again. Then we have the breaks, which is this sample again from the Dariacore pack. Sorry for going on and on about it. I just want to show that this pack is useful. You can use it for shit. So that's the stretch sample. That's the original sample. And what have I done here? Just taken it and chopped it up, and then use those same claps from the first half to accent like some of the, so I'll show what it, we have a new little stretched clap that comes in, so just another stretch job. And so then I took the drum hits here, kind of chopped them up, and I'll unmute these. I had to do heavy processing to get them to be this space. So a couple of the snares are getting accented with the stretch claps. And yeah, again, super weird EQ to start it off. Cutting all the low mids out, and another tectonic, another compressor. Just kind of, I mean, the only way to get the result that I have here is to have the exact same mix in your track, so I'm not really going to cover it. You just get the idea that it's all to fit.
I cut it off last night.
Right, vocals that are mid-heavy, and then these two layers, which is a kick, like a big stompy kick that changes. I love those two. Those are really nice. That fit with the contact thing. This is just literally right out of a contact patch. Just two notes there. And so what those do is just fit with this. I don't know if they're in key or they're in a complementary key, but they fit with those. So yeah, to finish it out, you know, more of these.
Somebody else on your mind. I act unbothered, now I'm on this flight, yeah. Been stuck in the same town. I'm so tired of thinking I won't leave here. And I know I got love here, but life's too short to think about how to be fair.
But yeah, that's going to do it for this one, y'all. I'm sure this ended up being a long tutorial, but I appreciate you watching. If you haven't got the Dariacore pack, go get it. If you're on the Patreon, I'm going to give away the revised breaks here. I'm going to do the Stabbed to Death Pluck that I talked about. We'll do this too. And then, you know what? I'll do this drum pattern too, because it's a cool drum pattern. So thank you for watching. I will see y'all in the next one.